Hello, hello, my scholars. Miss Ramey here, coming to just review a little bit about what we have learned over the past week or the past couple of weeks. Last week, we officially started our unit on circles, and I wanted to ensure that you all had another tool for your toolbox to help you to study, to review as you navigate and go through this circles unit. So today, when we go into circles, we are going to start by talking about pi. We are going to talk about pi. And so you all know that when we talk about pi is in word format, pi, not PIE like the pie we eat, but pi, the mathematical term for it. And pi also has a symbol, and this is the symbol for pi. And then the numerical value of pi is 3.14 or 3 and 14 hundredths. So whenever you see the word pi or you see the symbol for pi, it is always a representative of the numerical value 3.14 or 3 and 14 hundredths. One thing to note is that the value of pi or the numerical value of pi never changes. It is always going to be 3.14 or 3 and 14 hundredths, right? And I think I asked you all, or I said to y'all in class, if we were to go down and ask Miss Halloran, hey Miss Halloran, what is pi? She's going to tell you 3.14. If we go over there and ask Miss Bond, hey Miss Bond, what is pi? She's going to tell you 3.14. Miss Gilliam, Miss Ward, any of those, everybody understands that pi is 3.14. So whenever you see the word, whenever you see the symbol, it is the same thing as the numerical value of 3.14. Well, that's good. You know that you can identify pi by the word, you can identify pi by the symbol, and you can identify its numerical value. But if you had to give a definition for what pi is, what would we say? I'm glad you asked. So what pi is, remember last term and last unit we were talking about ratios and proportions? Well, pi is actually the ratio of the circumference compared to the diameter, or the circumference um, divided by the diameter. And what happens is if you take the circumference of a circle and divide it by the diameter of a circle, it gives you the same number. And that number is 3.14. So, or pi. So, we're going to break all of that down in a little bit. A lot of people take the short route and say, oh, it's just the circumference of a circle. But the official is the ratio of the circumference to the diameter, or the circumference divided by the diameter. Okay? So now we're going to talk about four very important vocabulary words that we need to know throughout this unit, and then we'll deal with some formulas, and then I'm going to get out your hair. Okay? We'll do examples in another video. All right? So circumference, as we just talked about. Circumference is when we take a circle and we measure the outside. So the outside measurement of a circle. So let's think about a shape like a square or a rectangle or a triangle or a parallelogram. All of those shapes have sides. So if we wanted to measure the outsides of those shapes, we would call that finding the what? The perimeter. Yes. So if I was to take all of the sides, measure all the sides of a square, and then add up all the sides, that would be me finding the perimeter. Well, you kind of can't do that with a circle. Can anybody tell me why? Exactly. A circle does not have sides. A circle is a circle. So since the circle does not have sides, we still have to figure out how can we measure this circle and what is that called. So instead of finding the perimeter of a circle, we find the circumference of a circle. So circle, circumference. Yeah, so we don't find the perimeter of a circle. We find the circumference of a circle because the circle does not have sides. So when we measure the outside of it, we are looking for the circumference. And then we move on. Well, so when we measure the outside of a circle, that's us finding the circumference. Well, what if I want to measure the contents of the inside of the circle? What would we call that? Well, that is us finding, you got it, the area. That is us finding the area. Now, that remains the same because the inside content of a square is also the area. So, or a rectangle triangle, that's also the area. So, in that sense, that remains the same. So, we find the inside, we measure the inside of the circle. That is us finding the area. And when we measure the outside of the circle, that is us finding the circumference. Well, when we find the area or the circumference, and we have to calculate to find those things. And there's some very important pieces of the puzzle that we need to be able to do that. So two things that we need is radius and a diameter. Miss Ramey, those words sound a little fancy. They almost sound a little technical. What exactly does that mean? And again, my friends, I'm glad you asked because I'm here just for you. So the radius. When you look at the radius, what happens is, all right, Ms. Ramey has to do some of her good drawing here. Okay, y'all ready for it? All right, let's get it. I'm going to draw a circle. I am going to adjust the screen just to make sure that you all can see. All right. So I'm going to draw a circle. Woo, look at that. That one was actually pretty good. And so the radius is when we measure from the halfway point of the circle. So I'm going to call this half, and then I'm just going to simply draw a line. Okay, like such. So the radius is when we measure the half point of a circle, the measurement of the halfway point of a circle. Y'all got it? And the halfway point can be anywhere. It can be here, it can be there, it can be on that side, it can be wherever. But it's just half the measurement from the middle of the circle to the end. So the halfway point of the circle on. That is the radius. All right? And then we have this thing called diameter. Diameter. Well, the diameter is just the measurement of one side of the circle to the other side of the circle. So if I wanted to put it in context and draw it out for you, this is what happens. Okay? So from one side to the other side. And as stated, it could be from top to bottom as well. It can be diagonal as well, but it's from one side to the other side is your diameter. So let's talk about it again, just for a point of review. So we have pi, Pi. We have pi, the symbol. We have pi, the numerical value, 3.14 or 3 and 1400. Okay. We know that pi is when we take the circumference and divide it by the diameter, or the ratio of the circumference to the diameter. That is the actual definition of pi. And then we know that we actually have the measurement of the outside of the circle, because what we learned is that circles do not have sides. And so because they don't have sides, when we measure the outside of the circle, we do not find the perimeter, but instead we find the circumference, right? And so if I was to order a pizza from Domino's and I trace the outside of the pizza, that would be me tracing the circumference of the pizza. If I wanted to measure what was on the inside, or this area inside of the circle, this space inside of the circle, that is what we call the area. Okay? So circumference outside, area on the inside. Things that we use to calculate is we use the radius, which is the measurement from half the circle to the other side, or half of the diameter. And then the diameter is the measurement from one side of the circle to the other half, like such. Okay? So typically when it comes to the diameter and the radius, diameter, you're going to see one solid line, and then the radius, you will see a half of a solid line. All right. And then last but not least, and I'm going to get out of your hair, there's a way for us to calculate calculate the circumference and the area of a circle. And the way we do that is by using our formulas. So we have three formulas here that I want to share with you. So if you have not written them down, if you did not write them down when we talked about it in class, please make sure that you are recording all of this somewhere in your notes so that you have something to study, okay? So when we talk about calculating the circumference of a circle, there's two ways that we can do this. You are going to be provided information. One piece of information that you could be provided is the diameter. So what that means is we're going to use the formula C, which stands for circumference, is equal to pi times the diameter. Because remember, when we have two terms right next to each other like such, that means that is the mathematical operation of multiplication, right? So in this case, we have the circumference is equal to pi times diameter. Now, let's say that if you were in class, I would say, somebody give me a diameter. Okay. So let's say our diameter is 2. We're going to keep it simple. Let's say the diameter is 2. So let me draw this up. There. All right, so this is, remember, the diameter is the measurement from one side of the circle to the other side of the circle. And we are going to say this is 2. So what we're going to do now is, instead of having a bunch of symbols and letters, we are going to translate this into numbers. So this would simply be pi, which is 3.14, times the diameter, which in this case is 2. So if I wanted to know the circumference of this circle using the information provided from the diameter, I would be able to tell you that the circumference of this circle is 6.28, because that is 3.14 times 2. Okay? Well, what if I was provided the radius? So I'm going to draw another half line. And we know that the radius is the measurement from the halfway point of the circle to the edge of the circle. But we also know that the radius is half of the diameter. So I can look at the diameter and say, oh, what is half of 2? Ha! Y'all so smart. It's 1. So, boom, cool, 1. So now I can, again, rewrite this formula, which this formula now, if I have the radius to work with, then I will use C, which is circumference, is equal to 2 times pi times radius. Okay? So that means I would take the number 2, multiply it by pi, which is 3.14, and then multiply pi by the radius. And the radius here. So if I multiply all those together, I get 6.28, as I should, because it's the same circle, right? Okay, good. So that is how we find the area, or I'm sorry, the circumference of a circle. And then we have area. So area is pi times the radius squared. And I am not going to get into this one now because I technically shouldn't have wrote this one out. I just wanted to give you the formulas. So to find out how to calculate the area of a circle, you will have to check out the next video. All right. So for all of my students that likes to tell me that I'm supposed to say like, share, and subscribe, here we go. Like, share, and subscribe to my channel. And then make sure you are taking your notes, because I need you all to be the great scholars that you are. Because remember, failure is not an option. All right. I'm going to let y'all be great. Y'all have a good day.